Hi, my name is Jason, and this is a video tutorial on how to create accessible PowerPoints. So in our last video, an introduction to screen readers part 1 and 2, we learned that for students who use a screen reader, navigation is extremely important. And to create navigation, we need to appropriately tag our headers to create a structure of our document. In addition to that, we need to ensure that all the elements within our document were appropriately tagged as the corresponding element with appropriate data behind it to allow the screen reader to know what it is that the user is now looking at. We're going to apply those same techniques to a PowerPoint file. And so we're going to start off by opening up PowerPoint. So this presentation is going to be slightly different than most that you've seen on accessible PowerPoints. Most presentations and things you'll read will say that it's important you follow the style guides, it's important you're using the layouts provided in PowerPoint. This tutorial is going to go over how to do what you're already doing but make that accessible. And to that end, we'll be dropping in free-floating text boxes, images, videos online, and I'm going to show you how to do that and make it accessible, because I know whenever you're presenting, the look and the feel is important, and oftentimes the PowerPoint slide itself may be a bit limited. So I'll also show you how to adjust the template itself. So we're going to start off by picking the template, and as you can see, there are several options. What's important is that when you think about which template you're going to use, you want to avoid one that has a lot of different colors and that might be busy. A user who might have ADHD, that might be very distracting for them. You want to avoid templates that have dark color and dark color or light color and light color. A user with a contrast impairment may have difficulty viewing that. You also want to, in general, try to find a template that is very clean. One that you can put text and pictures and have that displayed and be easily to read. So when we talk later about fonts, you want to think about all that in addition to like the colors. So for this PowerPoint, I'm going to use Basis. It's one of my favorite, simply because I like the red outline on the back. It goes well with our logo. So I'm going to hit that and hit Create. So like most people, I like to first start off with um, sorry, I'm just getting my other PowerPoint up. I first like to start off with a title slide with our logo. But before we get there, I just kind of want to give you a brief overview of all the things that we're looking at. So the first is you'll see the top ribbon where we have various options. The stuff we want to look at particularly is this new slide button. So within this we have different slide types. And this is what we're going to primarily use to create our PowerPoint presentation. The other thing I want to draw your attention to is this select feature. So what I want you to do is click select and hit selection pane. This tells you all the elements on your slideshow. A screen reader will read those elements out in order from bottom up. So when we start adding elements, whether those be pictures, whether they be text boxes, it's important that the reading order of how JAWS reads it is appropriate. You can adjust this simply by clicking and dragging up and down. So the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to create a title slide, um, and instead of a traditional title slide, before I have my title slide, I want to put a logo because I want people to know this is from the Rutgers Access and Disability Resources. And so to do that, I'm just going to add Rutgers Access and Disability Resources. Now every slide needs a title. You don't have to show your title to all users, so sighted users, if you want to hide it, you can do so by clicking this button here. It says hide. But all slides need a title, so when the screen reader is going down through the slide deck, it'll know they're on slide 2 of 2, and this is the name of that slide. Um, so what I want you to open up now, before we even click on the image itself, is go to File, go to Check for Issues, and then check Accessibility. So as we run through our slide, we're going to create all the elements accessible, and if something is not accessible, we'll see the error pop up here. So rather than creating your slideshow and then going back and try to retroactively make it accessible, we're going to build accessibility as we go along. So for my title slide, I'm going to cut and paste an image into the slide box. Like I said, I really don't like this title here, so I'm going to hide the title, and I am going to now make this the full width of my box. Fix this bit, and then in terms of the back, so as you see, once I paste it in there, it's saying I'm missing an alt text now on slide 2. So that's the slide. And to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click, go to Format Picture, and then this icon here, Size and Properties, I'm going to click this alt text button. Then I'm going to type in Rutgers Access and Disability logo. So there are two things here. There is a title, and that is the tooltip that appears when you hover over an image, kind of like how it's showing title right now. And then there is a description, and the description is what the screen reader will actually read out loud. So when it hits this element, it will say image, then Rutgers Access and Disability Resources typeface logo. Now, let's say, go back to that. So now that I've added that, you can see the error has automatically gone away. But let's say, I want to change the look of this box, right? Like, I kind of want to change the color. Actually, I'm going to do eyedropper to match that. So now it's the same color as my logo. And I want to apply to all slides. So now I have the same red border. And for this one, I just want to hide that graphic. So now I have my logo. And if you're familiar with PowerPoint, if you wanted this to be the first slide, I can drag and drop. But now I'm onto my title. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this document that we looked at before, and we're going to create that as a PowerPoint presentation that we might be showcasing. So we'll go USS Enterprise. And then again, if you're not satisfied with the colors, the feel, the look, if you go to design, I can change the colors here. And so I'm going to change that to black just because I like black on red, black on white more than I like red on white. It's just that when we think about our fonts, we want to avoid very fancy fonts with a lot of decorative items. Individuals who may have a learning disability might find that difficult to read. And so we want to use very clean fonts. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add another slide. And this time I'm going to add a to content slide. And so similar to last time, I'm going to give this slide title. And I'm going to copy and paste an image into the box and or text. And I'm using two screens here, which is why you don't see the copy and paste. But ideally, all I'm doing is highlighting, hitting Control C and hitting Control V to paste it into PowerPoint. Now, in this case, you'll notice that the picture did not show up as an accessibility error. That is because in our original text, so when we um, formatted the page for the website, uh, we included an alt text behind that. And so if I go to format picture again, or if I just click on this icon, you can see that it kept the metadata behind that image. So it's nothing else I need to do. So once you created it as an accessible image the first time, every place I copied and pasted it to, for the most part, should keep the metadata. Now that isn't universally true. You should probably double check with your accessibility checker, but in most cases, that metadata will carry over. So um, let's say now that I wanted to just create a free-flowing text box. So a lot of times, what people will do is they'll go to Insert, click on my slide, Insert, Text Box. Now, the argument against inserting a text box is that when I insert a text box, um, shareholders report, that information does not show up on the outline view. So if I go to outline view, I believe that's view, as you can see, that information doesn't show up. So if I was someone trying to format this and put this into a Word doc, it'd be really easy for me to look at this outline view and have all the information and put that into a Word doc. But as you can see, that free-flowing text box does not appear in the outline view, which is why uh, it's considered a something you probably shouldn't do. In this case, though, um, I'm going to show you how to make that accessible through PowerPoint, even if you did apply free-flowing text box. So as you can see in our accessibility checker, it says under tips on slide 3, um, you probably want to check the reading order, and that's because this text box here, we kind of just added it. And so we kind of want to look at our reading order. So the screen reader will read the title, it will read content placeholder 3. So at the moment we have it reading the right hand side and then the left hand side, the image and then the text box. And in this case I want to have it read the image first, and then I want it to have it read the contents of that text box, and lastly this. And by the way, if we wanted to then rename that text box to source, what it will read is, instead of text box 2, it will read source, and then it will read the content of that box, source shareholders report 2018. Likewise, what JAWS will read is content placeholder 5, image of US enterprise with NCC 1701-0, or whatever we added as the meta text. So let's continue building our slideshow. So the next one I want to do is the cost of and we're going to add our graph. If we want to, we can make this bigger. And then if I check our alt text, you can see that the alt text did carry over. Now, if you're using graphs or charts or diagrams, Benetech has a unit called the Diagram Center, and on their website they give you various options of STEM content and step-by-step guides on how to create an accessible alt text. But essentially, similar to the last video we made, we're describing this image, we're giving the X and Y axis and all the details that we see on the image without interpreting any of the data. But we're going to continue. So the next one I want to do is we need to give this a title. In this case, I don't want my users to see this title, but I do need my screen reader to read it. And so I'm going to just make a title, and then this icon, I'm just going to click it to hide it. So the screen reader will still pick it up, It's just visual users or users who have sight will not see it. The next thing I'm going to do is new slide. And if you just heard the fire alarm, I apologize. Major funders. And I don't want a subtitle, so I can just delete that. And as you can see now, it is gone. And in this slide, actually what I'm going to do is title only Tony Stark, and I am going to just cut and paste an image of Tony Stark. And again, I want to hide the title, and you can see that the image was it just appeared there. I'm going to do that again. Title only Shuri from Wakanda. Hide that. Cut and paste my image. And so now, if I go to my alt text, image of Shuri from Wakanda. Because I had formatted all these for the alt text, they appeared, and if they didn't, it would show up under this accessibility checker. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take our chart. I'm going to add a chart. So comparison of engines in similar crafts. We're going to take, where's our website, copy and paste this chart. Now as you can see, it formatted itself as a chart. We're going to go design and we're going to hit header row. So what it does is it formats this first row as a header. And then if I wanted to adjust the look and feel, I can do that. I can make it bigger. And then what I also want to do is create an alt text. So you'll see one of the errors that came up here was content placeholder 3, slide 9. So if I click on that, this gets selected. So let's say I just click on it, you can see it selects the issue. And then I'm going to go back to this and give it a description. Just say chart of comparisons of engines. And so what JAWS will do then is it will read this as a table. It will read the description of the table, and then using special keys, it will allow the user to either read it by row or by column. So the last thing I'm going to insert is a movie. So let's say, I want to end this with a movie. So I'm going to say movie, or video of Enterprise launch. So there are a couple, there's actually really only one way to do this. There's a couple ways though that PowerPoint allows you to do this. So you can insert a video and it'll give you the option of inserting it from the internet. So you can search YouTube, you can download from a file, or you can embed it. So PowerPoint natively has controls for screen readers or keyboard only users to control the video. However, it doesn't work if you embed it from the internet. And so my recommendation in this case would be to go online, type in YouTube downloader, and there's a lot of online converters. So if you're using a YouTube video and you don't have access to it, and I have, I got this box open. What you're going to do is just copy and paste now the video link into there, hit start, and it should convert it. While it's doing that, the other thing, and that shouldn't take too long, but while it's doing that, I also want to point out that when you go to YouTube, or wherever you may go to find your videos, um, it's important that those videos are captioned. And so if I was to search the USS Enterprise launch, I can hit this filter button and I can hit subtitles, closed captions. And that should bring only those that are marked as closed captioned, so that I can select the video that is in fact closed captioned. And we can see my video is being processed, and now it is processed. I'm going to download it, save, and we're going to go back to our PowerPoint. I'm going to go to downloads, Star Trek, insert. And likewise, I can hide this title if I wanted to. This is really long. I'm just going to call it video. I'm going to hide the title, make this full screen. So if you wanted to just show it on the internet, my recommendation would be to include a link within the slide that would allow the screen reader user to navigate to the direct source from YouTube. And then YouTube has keyboard commands for you to pause, stop, and play. The last thing I want to discuss in this video tutorial is this notes section. So screen reader users can bounce around from these different panes, um, and it can in fact read these notes. And so if you do have notes there, feel free to leave them there because screen reader users can access them. And before we're done with our slideshow, what we're going to do is we're just going to check all of our accessibility errors. So we can see this missing an alt text here. So I'm going to click on this, add an alt text. And then the tips, it says ensure caption usage. So I should go onto the internet, just play this video and make sure that it is appropriately captioned. In this case, it's not. So this is not a video that we should use. And then in terms of check and read order, slide 3, I've checked this reading order and it is confirmed. And so that is the tutorial on how to make accessible PowerPoints. I'm going to upload a video on how a screen reader would actually read this. So I'm going to save this, save as training. I'm going to save this as okay. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. And be sure to check out our other videos, especially the follow-up to this one regarding how a screen reader would actually read this.